welcome to another episode of the Strength Log. My name is Philip Wildenstam. I'm a certified nutrition coach and a co-founder of Strength Log.
And I'm Daniel Richter, CEO of Strength Log and a certified personal trainer. How are we doing, Philip?
I don't want to say...
Why?
I'm such an unserious fitness influencer. I'm a bit tired. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, because you did an ultra marathon yesterday.
Yes, exactly. I'm back into my ultra marathon days.
At the bar. And I have a bit of a cold. Yeah. Boo-hoo. Pity me.
Yeah. I thought about that. I haven't been sick all winter.
That is nice.
Like my first week. I think for once, I have improved my cardio fitness, which will improve your immune system if you do that. And secondly, I don't commute as much, meaning going on the subway or buses.
That's a big one.
Because I walk a lot. And staying away from sick people is a good way to not become sick. So maybe you should stay away from your kids, Daniel.
Maybe I should. The thing that bugs me about having a cold today specifically is that we might have the biggest and maybe most anticipated episode of the podcast's history ahead of us. Yeah. And it's almost a 100 episode long history.
That is nice.
We are going to talk, like the title and intro hints, about building muscle after 60. And this has been much requested.
Yeah. It's been almost exactly a year since we made the episode Building Muscle After 40, which is one of our most listened to episodes. And the requests for, but what about 60, 70, 80? They came in immediately because people are never satisfied with what we give them.
What about 41? And apparently 1 year is our turnaround time, so get used to that. And as usual, and as with the Building Muscle After 40 episode, and as with the topic of strength training for women, which is also commonly requested, which we haven't done yet, yours and mine reaction or hurdle to get over is that, but you just do the same as you always do. You follow the same principles and start where you are and build from that, yada yada. But we understand the need for more details.
Yeah, nuance. And also, when we did the 40-year-old episode, or whatever you're going to call it, we could draw from personal experience, or at least I could. You were closing in.
Precisely. I think I'm turning 39 this year.
Yeah, I'm turning 45, so I have some experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I look at my life today compared to when I was 30, I can definitely notice that things are a bit harder. My life is busier in some senses, and it's not the same as being 30. It's the short gist of it. And I haven't experienced being 65 or 75, but I can only assume things are not as the same as being 45.
Yeah, we have unknown unknowns.
Yeah, and we asked for comments, and we got a lot of questions. Not comments, questions. We got a lot of questions from older listeners, and those questions are kind of telling. So we built this episode. We're going to talk about how to train, how to eat, all that stuff, and then we are going to bring up your questions and let those be the foundation of the episode.
Precisely. We have like this thread we're going to follow, and then we're going to intermingle the questions into that.
Yeah.
And we'll draw upon, in addition to the questions and comments, we'll draw on some research as well. But I don't think we can do this episode without first going over some of the major benefits of strength training, because that's why we're all here, for one reason or the other. So, benefits of strength training, that goes for those over 60, but for everyone, let's rattle them off. And the most obvious one that kind of sets the foundation for many of the other benefits is that you will build muscle and strength obviously. But the thing here is that this isn't only about getting bigger biceps. It's about you being able to say yes to life, that you can get out the door and have energy and strength and mobility enough to do things and not be burdened by whatever ailments you may have. And it's also about big biceps, because that's cool. Yeah. And then we have the fact that your mobility and your balance will improve from strength training, because the act of doing it doesn't seem to be a huge difference between whether or not you train with machines or body weight or with free weights. There are probably some specific differences, but as long as you do any strength training, you will increase mobility and balance. We obviously have the fact that you will have stronger bones when you load them. That is how they are stimulated. A little bit less known is that strength training also improves your joint health. Some of the older listeners might come with the knowledge in their backpack that your joints are pristine when you're born, and then you gradually wear them down as you age. But we've seen now that that isn't really the fact. The joints also change and adapt and get stimulated. And when you use them and when you load them, you get thicker cartilage, you get healthier, less painful joints. And strength training is now one of the most common and effective treatments for arthritis. It's just about starting where you are, slowly progressing from there. We also have the fact that your metabolism is going to be better and you will have an easier time managing your weight. We're going to talk about metabolism more in depth later on, so let's leave it at that. Strength training and any other exercise that can treat or manage different chronic conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes. Also, one of the maybe newer topics of benefits from strength training is that it will make your mind and memory sharper. It can halt and reverse cognitive decline. We see that when people are put on a strength training program, not only do they build their biceps and get stronger, but they actually improve in various cognitive measurements. They get a better memory, better short and long-term memory. They get better decision-making abilities, get better focus. So not only will your body improve, but your mind will too. And I think that is super cool. And it's now one of the major reasons for why I feel like training is important. Sure, you want to keep the heart ticking, but you also want to maintain your mind.
And I've never seen a senile person bench press 100 kilos. Meaning if you can bench press 100 kilos, you'll never go senile.
You're onto something. You will get better sleep if you strength train, and that is something that might go south as you get older. But if you stay active, if you exercise, you will sleep better. You will fall asleep better and you will sleep for longer. And lastly, strength training and exercise increases or improves your mood and your quality of life in general. It is as effective for treating depression as medicines are for depression, and once again, one of the clinical treatments for depression. So yeah, it really does everything except for chopping onions.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, so those are the benefits. Now, let's enter this topic from the side that we naturally begin losing muscle somewhere around 30, but really, really slowly at first. But if you don't do anything, at 30, you'll begin to lose a bit of muscle, so that at 40, you'll have a bit less muscle walking around. At 50, even less, 60, even less. But there is where it starts to accelerate, somewhere around 60. And we start losing, on average, something like 1% of our muscle mass and strength every year. But the thing with this is that the majority of that loss is from inactivity and poor lifestyle. Not much at all comes from actual physiological changes that has only to do with age. There are some of those differences and we'll cover them, but you can affect so much of this and you don't have to resign to it.
Yeah.
So clinically, we call this muscle weakness and muscle loss, we call it sarcopenia. And that's the term that your doctor might tell you as you turn into an old fart. And the natural aging, as mentioned, is part of why you get sarcopenia or muscle loss. You might have conditions like diabetes, and you might have chronic low-grade inflammation. These can contribute to muscle loss, but an inactive lifestyle and poor nutrition are bigger contributing factors. Yeah. And if you start strength training and start eating a little better food and take care of yourself, you can fight all of these. You can fight diabetes, the sarcopenia, and the inflammation. And, well, if we put that in the title, it's kind of the elixir of youth. It's so good, man.
Nothing better. I'm gonna sound like a complete asshole now, but I often see senior citizens on, for instance, the subway or a bus here in Stockholm where I live, and you can just tell that they live very inactive lives, and the thought has crossed my mind because I get up to give my seat away and other people do the same, but they should be standing. They shouldn't be they are already doing enough sitting.
So don't give them your seat.
No, I mean, it's going to come off as...
Here's a dumbbell.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a negative loop that feeds into itself.
Yeah, and I think that's why it accelerates at a certain point. Because, say... when I was at university, my class, we were all in our early 20s. There wasn't much difference between those who regularly exercised and those who didn't. You probably couldn't tell it with a super high accuracy that person is active, that one isn't. But as you get older, these two groups start to diverge. Yeah. And say for a group of 70-year-olds, you're going to see huge differences in the group that exercises and the group that doesn't. And we got a study on that we're going to mention a little bit later on. But first, I do want to mention some of the changes that we actually do see from aging. And one of the probably most talked about, and the one that maybe people worry most about, and we'll see if we can maybe change that within this episode, is that you will have lower levels of your different anabolic hormones. And anabolic means that they can help you build muscle and tissue in general. So testosterone declines, estrogen declines, growth hormone declines, IGF-1 declines as you age. You can also have blunted signals for muscle growth from both strength training and protein, coming from having a higher degree of chronic inflammation. And we're going to talk about that too and what you can do about that. And yeah, you might lose more fast twitch muscle fibers, especially if you don't use them, obviously, and just retain the slower twitch fibers. So those are some differences. Another difference is that some of the proteins that you form, and in this case, especially collagen is the one I'm thinking of. And collagen is what you have in your muscles, in your joints and tendons, in your ligaments, in your bones to some degree. You don't form that as fast as you do when you're younger, which might affect your recovery time, which we'll also get into in more detail. But taking all of these things into account, lower hormone levels, maybe worse signals for growth, less collagen production, when we actually train people and compare 60-year-olds with 20-year-olds, we see very small differences, if any, because you might expect that, oh, my testosterone is 30% lower than when I was 20. Yeah, but you and the 20-year-olds, you both increased your bicep thickness by 10% when you trained for 2 months. So what are you on about? Just go train. It's a case of not staring blindly at something that you barely can control and just go with the practicality of it. Yeah, it still works. Just do it.
I'm just going to add, it's not a level playing field. If you start strength training at, say, 75 and you haven't strength trained for 50 years, you're never going to catch up to a 20-year-old that starts strength training at 20. And that's not fair, but it is what it is. But you can still be the fittest senior citizen at the retirement home in Florida.
Yeah, and it ties in to one of the most common questions or objections we get when we talk about strength training for say older people over 60. One of the most common one being it's too late to start. But it's never going to be better to start. And as mentioned, you still build muscle and strength just fine. For instance, there's one study in which 10 90-year-olds lifted weights for 8 weeks, and they found that over these 8 weeks, they increased their thigh muscle area by 9% on average. And as we mentioned earlier, after around 60, you start losing 1% of your muscle every year. That's kind of normal. So gaining 9% here, these 90-year-olds reversed almost a decade of muscle loss in their thighs in 8 weeks.
8 fucking weeks.
Yeah, and they were 90.
Yeah.
You're bound to have different ailments that blunts your muscle growth at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would have been better to start when you were 12, but do what you can.
Exactly.
And this was the study I thought about comparing, say, 20-year-olds versus 70-year-olds exercise. There was actually a study from Texas that kind of did this. They compared 4 groups of people. One group of 25-year-olds and one group of 70-year-olds. And these two age groups, they were in turn divided into those who didn't train regularly or those who did. And I think it was defined as at least twice per week in this case. So 4 different groups, 2 age groups and 2 training or not training groups. And they tested them in various strength and performance metrics. And they found that the 70-year-olds, they were stronger and performed better, obviously, than the untrained 70-year-olds, but also better than the untrained 25-year-olds. And they matched the trained 25-year-olds in many of the tests. And if you were to draw up a continuum, a big line where you would place the trained 25-year-olds at one end and the untrained 70-year-olds at the other end, these trained 70-year-olds were much, much, much closer to the trained 25-year-olds in terms of fitness than to the untrained 70-year-olds. So it's sure you might not catch up, but you can make a big change.
The difference is night and day. And if you continue training for another 10 years as a 70-year-old, you're the difference between a trained 80-year-old and an untrained 80-year-old is the untrained 80-year-old has a big risk of breaking their hip from a fall or something, and then they'll be dead in 6 months. And the trained 80-year-old is probably just gonna keep rocking for years and years. It's impressive. Yeah, it's impressive to see. But I mean, the risk of illness increases even if you train. It's not like you can end aging completely. And I think the major reason for people giving up on training is because they get an illness if they have been training their whole lives. So, I mean, you do what you can.
Yeah, and that is another common objection, that strength training is dangerous. I'm going to hurt myself. But for one thing, strength training is among the safest forms of exercise, maybe the safest. Maybe walking is safer per hour.
Free
Not
soloing.
in the winter, maybe. Free soloing. And as glute guy Brett Contreras has quoted or has quipped, if you think strength training is dangerous, try being weak. Being weak is dangerous. And once again, this is something that catches up on you, because in your 30s, it might not be that dangerous not to train or be a bit weaker, but when you're 70, 60, 80, whatever, it starts to get pretty dangerous. We also mentioned other common objection that, my hormones are too low, nothing's going to happen. And the anabolic hormones, they do decrease with age. But when we actually train people, they still build muscle and strength just fine. And also, building muscle and being active with exercise, that is the best way to keep your hormones up. Having a healthy lifestyle, including exercise. So another common objection and a real problem, I don't mean to belittle it, but that is that my joints are too stiff and fragile, or they hurt. And this can absolutely be the reality for a lot of people. But the thing is that, once again, strength training is kind of the best way to do something about it. It improves your joint mobility. It reduces joint pain.
Yeah.
The key is that you need to be a bit, well, what should we say? Careful about how you implement it. Careful makes it sound more delicate than it is. You need to be a bit thoughtful about it. Start light, start with a small range of motion that doesn't hurt, and then gradually expand this. Gradually expand the range of motion. So maybe if you do leg extensions and you can only do them in a part of the movement, okay, begin there and hold off on increasing the weight. And instead first use, as your progression metric, use range of motion. So you gradually do the movement with a lightweight in a longer and longer range. And then you can start adding maybe some more sets and reps, and then you start adding some weight. So you go about it gradually and let your body adapt.
The good thing here is that older people are much more reasonable and open to advice than young people are. So if you're an older person listening to this, you're more likely to actually take this advice than a 20-year-old full of testosterone and
more patience as well.
Yeah.
No, but what is 1 week? I can wait that.
You've said in episodes past that strength training is infinitely scalable.
Yeah,
you can start by lifting. I have a salt shaker.
Why do you have a salt shaker?
Because this is where we eat our lunches now. Okay. I don't have my pod studio because of the water damage to the office.
That's true.
So you can start lifting something in the kitchen. I know a person in her 40s that has a hard time lifting a milk carton. Because she's an academic person and she just sits still and she has an office job and she does nothing, and she has sarcopenia at 40.
That's gonna be great at 60.
Yeah, and I mean, just start super light and build from there.
Yeah,
you don't have.
We'll get into some recommendations on training, but first we've got one more common objection from the ladies, which is that I've gone through menopause, I can't build muscle anymore. And we got a question on that from Shorten Wheeler. And I got to start by apologizing to Shorten Wheeler, which is the Reddit name, I assume. Maybe it's the real name. No, I need to apologize twice. But we've misgendered Shorten Wheeler in the past and called her a man. I'm sorry about that. Now, Shorten Wheeler writes, what about the ladies in their 60s and beyond? You previously mentioned that studies show that everyone builds muscle at the same rate percentage-wise, regardless of age and gender. But in the real world, you rarely see a ripped or even modestly muscled post-menopausal woman. Is it game over for us ladies once we hit our 60s, or is it simply a case of having to have a PT or a research assistant standing over us when we train to ensure we don't slack off? You can tell that Shorten has been listening to the podcast because we often discuss the huge benefits of having someone yelling at you. And also probably why most people quit their PT, because they don't want to have someone yelling at them. Just leave me be. Let me lift the same weight as I did for the last 10 years.
I mean, strength training for women was really weird 50 years ago. Women were at the most supposed to do some light jogging and aerobics. And
it's not aerobics, Philip. It's aerobics.
Aerobics.
Sorry, that's my...
I lost my chain of thought.
Sorry.
But I mean, if you had gone into a gym in the 80s, you would have seen these huge bodybuilder guys with their tank tops and MC Hammer pants, and you might have seen a fitness woman in there who was also on steroids. It was, I mean, strength training in the 80s was a freak show. And those people today are the senior citizen that Shorten Wheeler is talking about, and there's not many of them around.
No,
just because of my image is that the aughts and the tens, this millennium has been when women actually found out that being strong is cool, being strong is nice. And we see a huge amount of women in gyms today.
Precisely. The wave is rising right now.
Yeah,
I believe.
So I think in another 20, 30 years, you are going to see ripped 60-year-old women.
You're going to see 60-year-old women who train that are stronger and in better shape than men in their 40s or 30s even.
Absolutely.
Who don't. And yeah, if we are to look at some research here, women past menopause or in their 60s and older, they're in a similar situation as the men. Their anabolic hormones, estrogen, one of the bigger ones in this case, they go down in both the men and the women. But once again, it's very clear how that doesn't show the full picture of what's going on when we talk about training. And let's take another study as an example. The researchers from the University of Exeter conducted a study with 70 healthy, moderately active women across 3 menopausal stages. So the one group of women was pre-menopausal, their average age was 46. One group was perimenopausal, meaning around menopause. Their average age was 52. And I think that's the median of when menopause occurs, but there's a fairly huge variation. And a post-menopausal group where the average age was 57. And they put these 3 groups of women on a simple strength training program for 12 weeks. And not only did all 3 groups gain similar amounts of muscle and strength, but they gained at a similar level, percentage-wise, once again, to what we would expect to see in 20-year-old women.
There you go.
If you have lost 20% of your muscle mass, then the percentage increase, if you gain 10% on that, it's going to be smaller. You have some catching up to do. But you still build muscle and strength at the same relative level. And as mentioned, no difference before, during, or after menopause. It seems like, I mean, obviously we have the fertility aspect of menopause, but the physiological performance or muscle building aspect, it doesn't seem to be as much of a clear line there. It's just the same gradual decline that we see in men, and the effects of strength training or what you can do about your situation isn't reflected in the drop in hormonal levels. They don't seem to matter a whole ton when it comes to that within the natural levels. So once again, just go train.
Case closed. We don't need more evidence. Strength training works. You should do it. End of episode.
Yeah. So at this point, I was planning that we should take a closer look at what actually changes in your body before we get on to the trainer recommendations. We've been in and over some of them, say hormones. The practical effects seem smaller than many think. One thing that do show up that we've briefly touched upon is that, you will now have wear and tear from 6 decades in your body. You might have injuries accumulated. You might have, some joint might be worn down, and you might have arthritis. So that is a real thing which you need to take care about, but you do it the same way as you do everything else, as if you would have just had a weak muscle. You start slowly and gradually increase. One difference that we mentioned when we talked about building muscle after 40 is that we said when we compare 40-year-olds to 20-year-olds, we noted that the 40-year-olds often have less free time available and more responsibilities than 20-year-olds, more work stress, more family stress, etc. But curiously, for the 60-year-olds, this starts to swing back the other way again, where you often get more free time again. You maybe passed on many of your responsibilities to someone else. You don't have that anymore. Your children might have left the home, etc. So with more free time, you have this great opportunity for a healthy, active, and fun lifestyle. And all the more reason to do it so that you actually can use that time that you now have and don't need to sit at home all the time. Unless you want to do that, of course.
Or on the subway.
Yeah. And we mentioned that collagen might not be formed as fast which might affect your tendon, joints, and muscles, which ties into a question we got from Thorns Fan 2023. How do I keep my connective tissue strong and healthy so it doesn't become my bottleneck for preventing injury while building strength?
You eat a lot of protein and you strength train.
Yeah, funny how that's the answer to everything in this episode.
What are we supposed to say? I mean, there are no silver bullets out there. There are no magic solutions. You can't just pop a pill and your joints are going to be awesome once again. But over time, with strength training and a good diet, you can reverse some of the wear and tear. You can build your joints back up. They might never feel like they did when you were 15, but yeah, they might feel like they did when you were 45.
Yeah, we have a related question from Annika. I'm going to read that too, and we can answer kind of both of them in bulk. Annika wonders, do you need longer recovery time after heavy workouts when you're over 60? Could it be better to split your training up into shorter but more frequent workouts? So, as a general trend, recovery time should theoretically be longer because of the changes we talked about. But from what I've seen, the individual variance and response and circumstances, they greatly overshadow any age-related effects. Kind of like the muscle building effect, despite the lower hormone levels. I think, sure, if you're 60 instead of 20, you might need more recovery time than you did before, but it's going to be way more affected by what you did last week or last month or last year. Did you do 0 sets of bench press last year, or did you do thousands of them? That is what's going to affect your recovery time. What you have done. So focus on your own small cycles of stress and recovery, or stimulus and adaptation. That is what matters, and you just jump on that wheel where you are. And regarding her question of splitting the training up into shorter but more frequent workouts, I always think that that's kind of a compelling idea to try and do that, and I like training like that.
Yeah, she asked the right person.
Yeah, but that is more a question of preference and your schedule rather than something we can make clear-cut recommendations about, because both seems to work. Either fewer but harder workouts, or more often but you split the volume up.
Annika should get premium in our app and start following Groundhog Gains.
Yeah, that's like the epitome of that type of training. You never do any hard work.
But you never take a day off, or I'm still disappointed that you made it into a 5-day-a-week program.
It should
have been 7 days. All right,
but let's rattle off some recommendations for actually how to train. So what you got?
You should strength train your whole body. You should. These recommendations are the same no matter your age. You should focus on the big compound lifts that work a lot of your body, just to be efficient in some ways. We know you get a lot of bang for your buck. You should pick a training program, because people who are on training programs are more likely to succeed with their goals than people who just wing it. You should pick it in a program that suits your fitness level. If you're a beginner, you should be on a beginner program. If you're intermediate, you should be on an intermediate program. If you're advanced, you should be on an advanced program. But you can rattle off your big 4 movements.
Yeah, precisely. We often mention the big 4 as a rule of thumb for like getting a comprehensive workout week done, or a workout. So the big 4 movements we're referring to is some kind of an upper body push, like a bench press or a push up or a shoulder press. Do some kind of an upper body pull, like a row or a lat pull down or a pull up. You do some kind of squatting movement where there's a lot of movement in your knee joints, like squats, obviously. Could be split squats, could be lunges, could be leg presses. I wouldn't want to mention leg extension here
No.
because it's not a compound movement, so forget that. But lastly, we have the fourth one, some kind of a hip hinge. So think something like the deadlift or a kettlebell swing or a good morning, something that focuses on your hip. And if you do one each, at least, of these 4 movements, then you've covered most of your major important muscle groups. The one that's left out a bit is abs, but yeah, add that if you wanna. But pretty much everything else is going to be covered by those. And then as to the question of how often, training a muscle once per week is insanely much better than not training it at all, but training it twice per week is almost twice as good as training it once per week. You get like 80% of the muscle and strength gains in general. So twice per week is a good point to aim for. Or you could do something like 1.5 times if you are on a rotating schedule. Say that you train half body workouts 3 times per week, then you'll end up at 1.5 times per week. That also works. But it's just that one is a bit on the low side and you'll plateau faster than if you bump that up a little bit. And yeah, you mentioned compound movements. They're good to focus on. A lot of bang for your buck. It's not that isolation exercises are bad. It's just that it's going to take more time. Say, take the bench press, which works your pec muscle, front delts, and your triceps. So with one exercise, you work those muscles. But if you were to do isolation movements like pec flies or tricep extensions, you'd have to do 2 movements. And maybe you wouldn't get as much practice at tying those movements together as well. So yeah, compounds are great. Begin with them, then you might follow up with isolation exercises if you wanna.
Yeah.
And as for set recommendations, this really depends on what you've been doing before. If you did 0 sets or 100 sets last week, but for a beginner, just do 2 or 3 working sets per muscle or exercise per session initially, and gradually increase that as you get more experience. Annika asked about a little bit about, no, someone else did later on. As for reps, anything between like 5 to 30 reps per set works for building muscle and strength. If you go lower than 5, you will not see as much of a muscle building effect from those sets, but still some. But say something like the golden interval between 5 to 15 reps is good to aim for.
Yeah.
And the last few slow reps, they are the one that counts the most towards muscle growth. So don't skip those. If you only train once or twice per week, make sure to get some of those a little bit harder, slower reps towards the end of your sets. And maybe most important of all, track this. And to track it, you download our app, Strength Log, for free, and track your workouts, write it down. Then the next time you're in the gym, you open up the last workout and click train again, or if you follow a program, this is done for you. And then you bump up the reps of the weights a little bit and get that progression going.
Nice pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, so here was the question I was thinking about. This has got to come from Reddit. Complex Elevator 680 wants to know, is there any reason to use higher rep ranges to reduce risk of injury?
I don't believe so. For once, the risk of injury when strength training with good form and you've learned what you're doing, it's very, very low. You might introduce some chronic injuries along the way, especially if you start bench pressing a lot. We see a lot of like aching shoulders or elbows, and even in young people. But those can go away if you improve your technique and just slow things down and build them back up again.
That kind of aches is often the result of doing too much too soon,
yeah.
Which is something you will have to learn, but it's not dangerous.
But I'm a fan of doing high rep work, especially in isolation exercises, which I do plenty of. But
yeah,
I don't.
It's more like there's no evidence for this, but if it feels better, do that. So like for me, when I do tricep extensions, I do them at like 20 reps per set because that load feels much better on my elbows than doing sets of 5 reps. That would be, I would need a lot more warm up and it might still be more painful. So just adapt that to what you feel like. But I mean, in the deadlift, I train with maximum of 5 reps, often lower.
High rep work in the deadlift is horrible.
No.
But I also don't think that high rep work in the deadlift is more injury prone. Why should it be? You're just going to get a mean pump in your lower back and it's going to suck.
Yeah. It's really, there's not really any evidence for this. I mean, like from a reductionist point of view, you could argue that logically there should be a relationship between heavier loads versus lighter loads. Say that you lift a pen, the injury risk should conceivably be very small doing that compared to a 1 rep max dumbbell curl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just go with what feels good. And Complex Elevator has another question that is, should we reduce or increase volume or frequency as we age?
No, we should increase our volume as we become more advanced lifters, and you can become a more advanced lifter as you age compared to when you were younger. So I would not make a blanket statement that just because you're older you should reduce your volume.
Yeah. A 60-year-old that has never trained before, they should probably do maybe 2 or 3 sets of bench press their first workout. But we have 60 and 70-year-old users who follow our bench press specialization program, bench press boogie, where you do 10 to 15 sets of bench per workout, 3 or 4 times per week. So it's about building that tolerance and going slowly.
Yeah,
you train and you adapt and you progress from there.
And you want to stimulate your body even when you're older, and to do that you need to have progressive overload. And one of the keys to progressive overload is slowly increasing your volume.
Yeah.
Want to get fit again, right? Can I use the German volume training, or is it too much? I have lifted over the years, going back this week. I will probably start with the beginner program, but what would you recommend? Frequency of workouts, etc. The goal is to be a fit, strong old guy.
Okay, so he or she, let's say he, because he wrote guy, lifted over the years. Going back this week, we'll probably start with a beginner program. Yeah, a beginner program is a better start than German volume training, because that's more like an intermediate advanced program where in many of the workouts you do 10 sets of 10 reps, and one does not simply jump on a program where you do 10 sets of 10 reps. You build up to that. Even if you have been training regularly before, if you haven't done those movements for at least some volume that is in the vicinity of that, you shouldn't jump on it. So you need to gradually approach it. And yeah, just filter the app for beginner programs and pick one of them. On an appropriate program, say a beginner program, if you are a beginner, you will make similar, if not better gains than on an advanced program, and you'll do so in less time and with a lower risk of doing too much too soon.
And on a side note, I fucking hate German volume training. I think
it's weird.
It has weird exercise selections. It's a weird program. I've never been even curious to try it for a week or something. I just look at it and
it's just the name that kind of pulls you in a little bit.
We have
I want German volume.
We have it in the app because we are capitalists and people want to train it, but I don't endorse it.
Sell out.
We have much better training programs in our app.
And worse.
And worse, absolutely.
Depending on the situation. Now, let's move on a bit from the training side and talk a little bit about diet and food and so on. one common question for people trying to stay in shape after the age of 60, or a common thought, I suppose, is that our metabolism drops after 60. And as a fact, it does. And mostly because we lose muscle mass. This has been studied in, there was this huge study with over 6,000 participants at all ages that were tested using, well, it's an advanced technique. They use doubly labeled water, so basically water with a special isotope on it, and they weigh them and so on. The point is that they could find out their energy expenditure, so their caloric need at different ages, and also with different levels of fat mass and a fat-free mass. And what they found was that the energy expenditure very closely followed the fat-free mass. So it's not that we, after 30, 40 something, start losing, our metabolism starts getting lower just for the sake of it or in isolation. It is because our fat-free mass starts decreasing, because those tracked very closely. There is, however, a decoupling of these two somewhere around 60, where your metabolism drops because your fat-free mass starts dropping. On average, I mean, on average, people don't strength train, so this is obviously not about the listener. But we also start to see a small decoupling that about 0.7% is the number you found. That's how much the metabolism decreases without the connection to the fat-free mass. So no matter what the fat-free mass is, your metabolism starts decreasing about 0.7% per year at that point. So if we follow that line into older age, we see that when someone is 90, your energy expenditure per unit of fat-free mass will probably be around 75% that of a 25-year-old. So if the 90-year-old and the 25-year-old were to have the same fat-free mass, the 90-year-old would have 75% of the metabolism. But we're talking about 60 here, so we have just started to see this minuscule difference. I mean, at 70, you'll see a 7% reduction. So once again, keep your fat-free mass up, do strength training, and eat protein.
Yeah. But I mean, the recommendations are going to be the same no matter your age. If you want to lose weight, strength train, eat a lot of protein, but be on a caloric deficit. If you want to gain weight, eat a caloric surplus, eat a lot of protein and strength train. And if you want to maintain, eat a caloric balance with a lot of protein and strength train. Sounding like a broken record here, but...
No. And what is a lot of protein here?
I mean, we often talk about 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight for a beginner. Something like that. If you're super advanced, you have a lot of fat-free mass on your body, you might want to bump it up to 2.5 grams per kilo body weight, something. We really don't know if there's an upper limit to this, but there's practical limits where you can't stay in a, for instance, caloric balance and you can't eat 10 grams per kilogram of body weight because you're not going to be in a caloric balance.
Yeah, that'd be hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but something like 1.5, 1.6 grams per kilo will cover most people's bases.
Yeah, and I think that's a good recommendation from another perspective as well. You don't want to eat your macros only. You want to have good food. You want to enjoy your food, especially if you're 60 plus. You maybe have 25 or 15 years left of life. Don't waste it on just this is my pile of rice, this is my chicken breast. I don't add salt because salt is bad for me. Definitely no fat because I don't want to, fucking eat good food.
Yeah.
Enjoy life.
If we keep on with the macronutrients, so protein, carbs, and fats, some might be worried that carbs will be more fattening as they age, but there's no such phenomena or mechanism. So carbs they're neither essential for survival nor especially fattening. So eat them as much as you wanna, or what fits within your like nutritional goals. Fats, yeah, they are essential. You can't go too low on them. Something like at least 0.5 gram per kilo per day is good. Probably a bit more to eat. But if you eat normal meals, you'll get a decent amount of fat.
Yeah.
And as for meal frequency, you don't need to do anything funny here. Something like 3 to 4 meals per day with protein in each of them it's time tested, it's social, and it's nice. If you want to do intermittent fasting and things like that, you can do so. Just know that there doesn't really seem to be any health or weight benefits from that specifically, at least on a general level. So do it if you feel like it. Don't feel forced to start fasting unless you really want to. It doesn't seem to matter how you distribute the food, unless it affects your behavior, of course.
But I mean, if we're talking about people 80 years or older, those people often have a harder time getting the calories they need because you start to lose your senses, your sense of taste and smell starts to become worse, and food just doesn't taste as good, and it's probably coupled with inactivity as well. You're inactive more, so you don't get that hunger. So make the food fatty and tasty if you're really old. Lots of salt, lots of sauce béarnaise.
Sure.
and add in some meat as well.
As for supplements, there are really none that are necessary in general. Some protein powder can help if you need some extra protein in your diet. Creatine is always helpful for people strength training.
Yeah.
Adds a little bit of muscle and strength gain. Might benefit your brain a bit as well, especially if you don't eat a lot of meat. So those are cheap and proven to help. And that's basically the end of the list for good supplements. I think we have a question regarding something for the joints later on, but really there's no good evidence that anything is helpful in general.
Oh.
So let's move on to the rest of the questions we got lined up. Would you pop the first one?
Yeah, it comes from our asshole buddy Jason in Paso Robles. At 59, I take NSAIDs for intermittent...
NSAIDs.
Is that how you say it? NSAIDs?
I think so.
For intermittent arthritis flare-ups. I've heard that they can blunt hypertrophy gains because some level of inflammation is part of the adaptation process for gaining muscle. Is this correct? And if so, how would you program around this? Man, I need my glasses.
So this is a thing.
Yeah, it is.
But I don't think Jason needs to worry about it. There's been a bunch of studies into this, like comparing doses and so on. And it's been found that 1,200 milligrams of NSAIDs, so that stands for non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs, I think it is.
Yes.
And ibuprofen is one of the big ones. 1,200 grams of NSAIDs per day has been shown to blunt muscle growth. But 400 milligrams, so 1 pill per day, does not, even in young men who realistically should be most affected by this. And if we look at even older people, so beyond 60, or maybe really unhealthy 60-year-olds who have high levels of chronic low-grade inflammation, so they might be inactive, they might have a lot of body fat, they might sleep too little, eat mostly junk food, etc., everything that like increases this constant bad inflammation going on. When that group of people take NSAIDs, they decrease their inflammation, and they might actually build some muscle just from that without even training. So there's this continuum where at one end, for healthy people, yes, it blunts muscle growth. For those with a lot of inflammation, it might actually turn over and be beneficial. So that's why when we're talking about people in their 60s, 70s, something like that, it might differ where you are on this scale. But no matter, prolonged use and exaggerated use of NSAIDs is not good for you, so you should try to get off that if you often use it. But not to mean that Jason belongs to this group there who needs to get off it, because I suspect that he doesn't need to take a ton of it. Yeah. Now, we know that Jason, he has low body fat, he has an active lifestyle, he seems to be a fairly healthy guy, except for all the insane amounts of wine he drinks. So I don't think he's in the crowd that benefits from NSAIDs due to inflammation, nor do I think that he has a degree of inflammation going on which would blunt his muscle growth compared to 20-year-olds. I think he'll build muscle at the same rate as those. Yeah. So assuming that he's not on daily max doses of NSAIDs, I don't think he needs to worry about the effect on his muscles. And if anything, him being able to train with less pain, that is bound to be much better for his muscle mass than being limited without them.
I think that's the biggest part of the answer. If the pain hinders you from actually working out, it's always going to be better to pop a painkiller and get the workout in than just sitting at home and like I can't take painkillers because it will stunt my growth, and then do nothing to get that growth.
Yeah.
So yeah. Pop those pills, man.
Great Talk writes in, I have issues with joint pain, which limits muscle building. I would love any advice on how to adjust the number of sets and reps per workout. Also, what to do about the joint pain. And also, do supplements, and what kind, if so, do they help over 60 lifters?
Yeah, for the joint pain, just to reiterate, exercise is the best treatment for your joint pain.
Yeah,
it's not a miracle. It's just, I'm struggling with arthritis in both my knees, and some days are worse and some are better. And sometimes I need to adjust my workouts a bit. I might focus more on rehab with lighter weights and higher reps, so the pain doesn't get too bad. And some days it's better, and then I focus more on the classic bodybuilding range of like 8 to 12 reps in like leg extensions or leg presses and stuff like that. And that works fine until it doesn't. But it's highly individual, and you need to be you need to listen to your body. It's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If you're
be a student both of strength training and of yourself.
Yeah, but don't be afraid to experience a slight discomfort in your joint.
Yeah, precisely. You might need to start training, and maybe you have a pain that is 4 out of 10, but maybe next week you can lift more weight without more pain, or when you lift the same weight, your pain is a 3 out of 10, and 2 months later it's a 2 out of 10 when you train. So you want to find this positive, or at least neutral trend in pain, where it shouldn't get worse and worse from workout. It should either go down, ideally, as you get stronger, or not get worse, but you get stronger and increase your mobility.
I would bet we can only know ourselves and our bodies, but I would bet that if you took 2 people, one who's been strength training for a couple of years and another who's been inactive all their life and now they are 65, the person strength training is complaining about their joint pain or lower back pain. But the one who doesn't strength train is probably experiencing much, much more joint pain. But it's just, it's it's a part of aging, having these aches. And
precisely. Because we who train, we might think that, oh man, I'm just incurring all of these aches from my training, but we don't know how it would have been without it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have plenty of friends who have never set foot in a gym, and their backs are so troubled now, even before 40, that they are severely limited. They can't garden without the risk of blowing out their back, so to say, and spending a week on the sofa. The thing is that this might happen to you if you strength train as well, but as I mentioned the term becoming a student of both training and of your own body, you become something of a mechanic and you know what to do about it when it happens. Okay, so this joint hurts. Good, I know that I should probably rest 1 or 2 days and then start up light activity, and I know how to progress it and what's appropriate. So you get all these tools for dealing with that.
And I also think that you develop like spider senses that makes you notice the slightest change in a way that untrained people might not. Yeah. They are also living with pain, but they view it in another way because you have become a student of your body.
Precisely. This is the 20th time my knee feels like this when I bend it, and the previous 19 times it ended up hurting bad when I kept doing it. I'll see what happens this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she also I don't think I read it. She edges in a question about women who took a break from fitness for more than a decade but are now restarting lifting and strength training. Are there any differences, or do you have any tips and advice? And no, it's the same as the rest. What we've been talking about the whole time. I think we'll need to do an episode about strength training for women. Now that I think about it, but yeah, really, it's the same.
Yeah.
We got a question from, I think this is a long time Swedish listener and follower, Svenitor.
Isn't he German?
Oh, is he?
I thought he
might
was
be mistaken.
Yeah. I think he invented German volume training.
Yeah, a lot of German volume in this one. Anyway, I'm fairly certain it's a he. I'm not 60 yet, but I'm still curious about how long one can keep muscles and strength when aging. So I know the max potential is reduced, but let's say I train really well up to my max potential during my 40s and 50s. Can I somehow keep most of it up into my 70s if I train and eat well? So this is a theoretical question because we don't know about this. Well, what's your guess?
I mean, if you're like a super competitive bodybuilder, you're probably not going to be able to keep on all that mass and be on the huge stack of drugs needed to have that mass for 40 years because you'll die, I believe. But let's say he's a natty bodybuilder or something like that. I think you can keep a lot of it. I think it's going to be hard to be as well trained as when you were 40, when you're 70, but you can still be the most awesome 70-year-old out there.
Yeah.
Having surpassing most sedentary 40 or 50-year-olds by miles.
Yeah, I think so too. Like this. When, upon researching this episode, I've seen that graph so many times about how muscle mass changes over the lifespan for someone who doesn't train, and it climbs up until like 25, 30 and then starts to drop off. And I think that curve, instead of dropping off with this inverted U shape, I think it would be much more like a plateau that you can hang on to it much, much, much better than most people ever like investigate, because I think the main problem is going to be that you are not going to train as well. I think your motivation will decline in many cases, or you'll have some injury that hinders you. So that's why it's quite a theoretical question for me. And another part of that is that he talks about if he reaches his max potential during his 40s and 50s, that is also very theoretical, because I think very rarely do people optimize their training and nutrition for a long enough time to reach their maximum muscular potential. I think there are always some more knobs to twist, and even if you have been training your whole life and you turn 60 or 70, there's probably something you can do or some venue of training in which you can improve in. Like, yeah, maybe you will have a really hard time beating your best bench max, but maybe you can get better endurance or rep endurance or whatever, or better technique. I mean, that's one of the fun things about strength training. There are so many variables, so you can always feel like you're improving in some aspect. If you don't want to chase deadlift PRs anymore, do something else. Get a sculpted low back or whatever. Yeah. You have so much to work with here.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you don't max out your potential, which very few people do, but you look like a swole dude, let's say, in your 40s. When you're 45, you have big arms, you have a tendency for abs, which is sci-fi to me, but some people actually have abs. It's cool. I think you can definitely still have abs in your 70s. You can still have big arms. It might not be exactly the same, but you can still shock people when you go to the beach.
Yeah.
But I mean, your skin starts losing elasticity as you age. So you things might not be as tight as there once was because you're aging, and that's fine.
Yeah. So last question of the episode comes in from Dave the Dub. I think he's from Ireland, not sure. What are the most impactful recovery methods?
You wrote down not training.
Yeah, that's the big one.
But
I mean, training as far as having a healthy lifestyle, active lifestyle, that is good for recovery. It's just not when the specific workout isn't good.
But I don't think that's a satisfying answer. I think...
Should be.
Yeah, of course. But I think the two big things you can work with is taking care of your sleep, meaning getting at least 7 hours per night, preferably 8 hours of sleep per night, and also eating enough calories, eating enough protein, but calories is the big one. Yeah. And having
recall the episode we did, you know, the one where the participants got junk food, or what was it, like ultra processed foods versus less processed, things like that also plays a role.
Yeah. The word I hate most, eat a healthy diet.
Yeah, because what the fuck is that?
Exactly. But I mean, take care of
you know
nutrition.
It when you see it.
Yeah, it's boring food. It doesn't have to be that boring, but take care of your sleep. Don't stress too much. Easier said than done. And eat a healthy diet and get your calories in.
So notice what wasn't on the list. We didn't say things like ice baths, massage guns, collagen supplements, what else?
Saunas.
Stretching. Do those things if you feel like it, but they're not going to impact your recovery. It is your own cycles between stress and recovery that matters. And when you are stressing your muscles, you do that appropriately with an appropriate dose and volume, and then you take care of your body the rest of the time until it's time to stress it again.
To quote a great philosopher, take care of your chickens. You don't get that reference.
No, what's that?
It's from an NFL player. That was a fun player to listen to. Marshawn Lynch.
I want chickens. All right. Have we turned every rock for
I believe we
after
have.
60 listeners?
I think we have. And I mean, if you're just getting into strength training, if you're just getting into this podcast, all episodes are for you. There's I think that's the main point. After 60, you're going to deal with more joint pain and stuff related to aging, but strength training is there for you, and you don't have to always think about yourself as a specific age group with specific needs. Just
Precisely.
do what works for everyone. It's
Yeah.
going to work for you too.
Try and learn the principles that
Yeah.
underpin strength training and dieting, because then you will know how your specific circumstances affect
Yeah.
it.
But
No matter if you're young or old or whatever.
if we're still podcasting in 15 years when I turn 60, I'm going to sit here and talk about, I was an idiot 15 years ago. Everything has changed for me now.
That I wonder what we would have said 50 years earlier from this one, 2011. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know squat about squatting back then.
No.
All right.
I was a beginner back then.
Yeah, me too.
For the second
I thought I knew a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Now I know nothing. But I do hope we did the topic justice and that someone learned something from it.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I'm glad.
You can let us know what we did wrong in this episode in our subreddit or in a comment on Spotify or YouTube. I always forget YouTube.
Don't feel bad, YouTube listeners / watchers. I got you. And sometimes I answer the comments. I'm just so busy not doing stuff. Takes a lot of time. Do make sure to track your training in our app. We have a ton of free programs. If you don't want to follow our ideas, you make your own programs or your own workouts and track those. It's completely free. Unless you want to take a step up to the big league and follow the advanced programs, those often cost a premium subscription, but the majority is free. It's called Strength Log. It's really great. And thank you for listening to this episode. And we will be back next week.
Train hard, eat well, die anyway.
But not today, Satan.